Oh, you're making me look in the wrong place, Regina. Hey, shalom, shalom. Welcome, welcome. Good to see everybody. Good to see. Oh, Valerie. Good evening. Back at you. Shalom, shalom. So praise Yah once again that we come together, and it's a great to see you out there, Miss Valerie, and all you who would join us at this time. We are grateful for the opportunity once again to share with you and to serve you in this teaching. This is the midweek MIDrash. Here we are, middle of the week. Here we are. If it's Wednesday, it's got to be midweek MIDrash. There we go. One goes with the other. So we're very thankful that you joined us. And again, I've been apologizing for the last few weeks because the thumbnails are horrendous because the picture just takes itself now. It doesn't ask us to pose. So that's why I'm a little stiff in the beginning here in case the picture's still yet to be taken. Of course, it's going to look horrible. I don't know. But enough of me kvetching. I'm here to to guide you and to hopefully we will have a very entertaining time tonight. So again, midweek MIDrash, we come together. In many ways, it's a good old-fashioned Bible study. So if you have your word, you can come and turn to First Peter, Kefa Aleph. This wonderful writing of an amazing guy. So we're going to go into a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff and origin and all that good stuff before we actually get right into the text, because it is an amazing individual. We've gone through the book of Yaakov, the most known as James. We went through First John, Second John, Third John, and then Jude, Yehuda. So we've been looking at these small epistles, and we're going through First and Second Kefa. Then I'm going to go through the pastoral letters from Shaul to Timothy and Titus, Yah willing. So we want to get into the nitty gritty. If how's that for a dated expression? Go back to the '60s, peace man. So here we are. It's wonderful that you're here to join us. That's all I can say. And whether you're watching us live or watching us later on, when we say shalom to you, we say welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to our abode. And I'm just looking over here briefly. And again, I was posing directly in front of the camera. Then my wife called me and I says, huh? So it's probably going to look horrible again tonight. So thank you again for joining us. And we hope that you're eager beavers to get to the text. And again, it's so important to get a sense of the author and how did we come to find this great work. And we just kind of take for granted. We open up our Bibles and there it is, 1 Peter followed by 2 Peter. Do I hear 3 Peter? No, you don't hear 3 Peter. But Clement in AD 95 is one of the individuals who give credit to the authorship of Kefa Aleph. Let's see, he was acquainted with First Peter. Polycarp, who was a disciple of the Apostle Yochanan, Shaliach Yochanan, and he makes use of First Kefa in his letter to the Philippians. So that's also good to for authenticity's sake, and that's the thing. What passes the test to include in the canon of Scripture? And a lot of people were involved in this selection, and these are some of the things. Let's see. The author of the Gospel of Truth, which was written between 140 and 150 AD, was acquainted with Kefa Aleph, First Peter. Eusebius, who was in the 4th century, indicated that was universally received as such, as an authentic document, an authentic teaching, and again, when you get this historical perspective of things, it gains credence, it gains more validity, that we know it's not a forgery or some kind of something else. So let's see. It is clear that Peter's authorship was early, um, was strong, early on, had strong support. As we just used a few individuals who made reference to it early on. It is thought that Silas, our friend Silas, helped, who was an expert in Greek, and Peter wrote with the help of, or through, or by means of Silas, whose literary Greek was superior. And that we see in the 5th chapter of this very important letter. It says, with the help of Silas, whom I regard as a faithful brother, I have written to you briefly, encouraging you and testifying that this is the true grace of Elohim. Stand fast in it. Okay? And Silas is an important character. We're going to get a little insight in him as well, because he helps Kefa in this letter. So again, there are those who debate whether 2nd Peter is really written by Simon Peter, because it sounds a lot different than 1st Peter. And knowing that Silas was involved in the writing of this letter shows that there was somebody who was more of a Greek expert who was able to turn a phrase a little bit better than Simon Peter, because we know that Peter was a fisherman, right? As you know, a Galilean fisherman, in all likelihood was familiar with some Greek as well as Hebrew and Aramaic, of course. So he must have had a working knowledge of Greek as well. All right. So let me see. I have first have the book of Acts chapter 15, which of course is a very important chapter, because it was a debate about what do we do with the Gentiles, with the Goyim who were coming to faith. And there were those who were formerly of the Pharisaic mindset, who says, well, of course they have to be circumcised first. They must undergo the Brit Milah before we can even begin to embrace them as mishpachah, as brethren. And it went back and forth. The council heard from Shimon Peter, of course, his experience with Cornelius. And then Shaul was there also with his ministering among the Gentiles, right? He was not an apostle to the Gentiles, an apostle to the lost sheep of the house of Israel through the Gentile communities. He was able to fit in. As he said in his own words, I become all things to all people. He was a chameleon. So, of course, he had a working knowledge of Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic as well, perhaps Latin as well. But so Silas was key. So the Jerusalem decree, we already read the epistle of Yaakov, otherwise known as James. And of course, you know why the book is called James, is because King James has the right of kings to. That's why in the New Covenant all these James appear. They're all Jacobs. They're all Yaakovs. That's why you see the one reference given to. I just did a brain lock. Well, I'll get to it. Just bear with you. So anyway, this epistle, or rather, it's a letter that's being composed, starting in Acts 15, verse 22. Then it pleased the apostles and elders with the whole messianic community, the ecclesia, the kahal Yahuwah, to send chosen men of their own company to Antioch with Shaul and Barnabas, namely Yehuda, who was also named Barsabas, and Silas, leading men among the brethren. So they wrote this letter to them. So this is they. So again, Silas has a hand in this as well. The Shlachim, the apostles, the elders, and the brethren, to the brethren who are in the Gentile communities of Antioch, Syria, and Cilicia. Greetings. Since we have heard that some who went out from us have troubled you with words, unsettling your souls, saying you must be circumcised and keep the fullness of Torah, okay, to whom we gave no such commandment. So in other words, they need to be circumcised and fully fluent in Torah before we can understand the Messiah. It seemed good to us, being assembled with one accord, Echad, the true brethren, are of one accord, to send chosen men to you with our beloved Barnabas and Paul, men who have risked their lives for the name of our Adonai, Yeshua the Mashiach. We have therefore sent Yehuda and Silas, who will also report the same things by word of mouth. He was very, very fluent, very affluent, very, not necessarily affluent, but he had the gift of gab. He was very intelligent. For it seemed good to the Ruach HaKodesh and to us to lay upon you no greater burden than these necessary things, that you abstain from things offered to idols, from blood, from things strangled, and from sexual immorality. If you keep yourself from these, you will do well. Okay? And of course, let me see. So they put it into effect, sending it to there. And of course, with regards to the decree that we write to them to abstain from the 4 ritual purity laws. Okay, we write to them to abstain from things polluted by idols, from fornication, sexual immorality, from things strangled, and from blood. And then he says, for Moses, Torah, has had throughout many generations those who preach him in every city, being read in the synagogue every Shabbat. So he's telling them just maintain these, and every Shabbat, as you assemble to hear Torah, you will learn slowly but surely. See, the believing community was never so forceful, and growth takes time. True growth takes some time, and that's an important thing. So Silas was very much involved in these very key things. He's sort of behind the scenes. We don't have an epistle of Silas that I'm aware of. So it is known that a secretary in those days often composed documents in better Greek, right? For those who did not have the language facility to do so. Thus, in 1 Peter, Silas's Greek may be seen, while in 2 Peter, it may have been Peter's rough Greek that appears. Okay, so those who say that 1st and 2 Peter don't sound like the same thing makes sense. There's a reason for it. That the amanuensis, the dictation is being taken by one who is more affluent. And I had this situation with me. We had this brother from Haiti, Pierre, a wonderful guy, but he had some teachings he wanted to have better understood in English. So I went through the teaching. Of course, there was a lot of spelling errors, a lot of bad grammar and whatever. So I had to understand what he was going for here, and I filled in the blanks. Made it more appealing, believe it or not, that I was able to put it in a good form where it sounds like someone who spoke English fluently. So it's still his letter. It's still his stuff. And also we know that the book of Mark, the Gospel of Mark, was really written from Kefa's perspective, right? he amassed his book based on the sermons and teachings that he learned from Kefa. So they had a close association between the two of them, and one was able to put it in book form, so to speak. Okay. And the other thing about Silas, he's referred to as a Navi, a prophet. It says that in verse 32 of Acts 15. Okay. Let me just get there for a second. So I know this is we're doing a teaching on Shimon Kefa, but we need to know about Silas, who was very much instrumental in getting this letter, using its verbiage to greatest effect. Verse 32 says, "Now Yehuda and Silas, themselves being prophets also, exhorted and strengthened the brethren with many words." Okay. And after they had stayed there for a time, they were sent back with greetings from the brethren to the Shlachim. Okay. So he was a Navi, was not necessarily a Shaliach, he was not necessarily an apostle, but not everyone is an apostle. To return to the brethren, to those who had sent them, right? And that's where we get the term Shaliach anyway. An apostle is one who is sent. And so this letter is dated in the early 60s because Kefa shows familiarity with Paul's prison letters, Colossians and Ephesians, which are dated no earlier than 60. And again, you compare that with 1 verse 3 of 1 Peter. Also Ephesians 1, 1 to 3, and 2:18. Colossians 3:22, and 3, 1 through 6. And Ephesians 5:22 to 24. And you could play that back later and get these references. We get to see that it was not some foreign community. Like, for instance, we wonder about the overlapping of the ministry of the prophets, right? We wonder about, where is Jeremiah? Did he know Isaiah? Did they know Ezekiel? Did they know Haggai? Did they know, Zephaniah? All these different prophets. Did they overlap? I'm sure that some of them did. So, and also we know that Kefa was martyred during Nero's reign, which concluded in 66. So, yeah, Nero's reign was between 54 and 68. So, anyway, so the place referred to is Babylon. Okay. And Babylon means many things to many people. There was Egyptian Babylon, which was a military outpost. There was Mesopotamian Babylon. Also, Jerusalem was referred to as Babylon, and then Rome was referred to as Babylon. Babylon was used symbolically. Like when we think of Las Vegas, we think of Sin City. It's not a good name to be known by, but there you go. So again, this is just as a good background. Okay. All right, let me go back here. So there's an Aramaic origin to the term Kefa, which is also interesting. Now it comes from kafa, which means to bow down or to bend down. Either way, there's a sense of obeisance involved in Kefa, who was the rock, right? Petros. We're going to get into that also. So we get these things not out of the way, but that we are introduced properly to Kefa before we listen to the words that he says with Silas. Okay. Matthew 16:18. Okay. In which Messiah? So then I tell you that you are Peter, Petros, or Kefa in Yohanan 1:42, which refers to a stone. And on this rock, this Petra, which was in Mount Hermon, and we're going to look a little into the background of that event where Mashiach had taken to Caesarea Philippi, which was the heavily pagan area north of the Sea of Galilee, the Kinneret, which means the harp. So up in the very northern region was this pagan area, right by the tallest of the mountains in Israel, which is Mount Hermon. And again, if we're familiar with Bereshit chapter 6, we see of an invasion, the B'nai Elohim, right, the sons of Yah, which are not people, they are Malakim, they are referred to as the Watchers. And we rely also upon the writings of Hanok, was known as Enoch, right, in his writing, which was understood and accepted as being historical fact. And so, well, let me just read the text I have here, because you'll find out some things together. So again, I will call you Kefa. He says, so in the midst of this paganism, he says, who do they say that I am? They had different answers. But then he asked personally, who do you say that I am? So he basically took these innocent country bumpkins into Sin City, into Las Vegas, into a casino area, right? They'd probably wondered, well, why are you bringing us here? All this paganism was there. This is where the worship of Pan, the goat demon, was worshipped. And at the bottom, at the very base of Mount Hermon, was what was known as the gateway to the underworld. And I did a teaching a few weeks ago on the Shabbat about this, so I hope it sounds familiar. And on this, and of course, Shimon Kefa responds, you are the Mashiach ben El Chai, son of the living Elohim. Okay? And Mount Hermon is also where Mashiach was transfigured. So he was reclaiming that location which the Watchers had come down and profaned. Enoch refers to 200 of them came, and they falsely claimed that they were there to instruct mankind, and so they lied. That's not why they came down. They came down to do all kinds of perversions. And again, Mashiach says, I will build my ecclesia, my kahal, upon this rock of revelation, and the gates of Hades shall not overcome it, shall not comprehend it, shall not be able to do nothing against it, because we are strong. The gates of hell shall not prevail against you. And that's what was at the base of Mount Hermon, the gates of hell, which was this deep grotto that was built into the bottom, the base location of Mount Hermon. Scary stuff. So I'm going to read a couple of verses here from Ephesians 2:19. Now therefore you are no longer strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the Kadoshim, the set apart ones, the saints, and members of the household of Elohim, having been built on the foundation of the Shlachim and the Nevi'im, the apostles and the prophets, and Yeshua the Mashiach himself being the chief cornerstone, or the Petra. He is the Petra. He is the rock of revelation. He is the mountain, and Kefa is a chip off the old block, right? Those who are Kadoshim, holy ones of Yah, are covenant are faithful to maintain the covenant, not to profane the Shabbat, which is a covenant sign, and to walk in faithfulness, to be to share the responsibility of a brit, which is two parties. Two parties enter into a brit, into a covenant. The covenant is cut. There's blood at the covenant being established between the two parties, and they both have skin in the game. That's why a covenant. Oh, I believe this. I believe that. Well, are you truly entered into covenant with Yah? It's going to cost you something, right? And the Brit Milah is the giving of the blood. So that's why there were those of the Yehudim who believed that the Goyim needed to first be circumcised in order to enter into understanding of who Mashiach was and is. And again, concerning the rock, this is interesting. Yakut Shimon, okay, which is an anthology of MIDrashim, which is MIDrash, which is the teaching basis of the Talmudic writings, okay, on the Hebrew Bible from the Middle Ages, states that when the Kadosh One, the Holy One, wanted to create the world, he passed over the generations of Enoch and the flood. But when he saw Abraham, who was to arise, he said, Hine, behold, I have found a rock, I have found a Petra, on which I can build and establish the world. So you see that this phrase is very familiar to Shimon Kefa and the revelation of building the world, building the Olam Haba from the ashes of the Olam Hazeh, the world to come from the world that is. And this world that is not the world of Yah. You cannot love this world, the Olam Hazeh, and love Yah, because Yah gives us the renovation of a new world, a new covenant. And I used to believe that the Brit Hadashah referred to a renewed covenant, but the Torah foundation is not. When you say the new covenant means that you have to have a new Torah. No, the Torah remains, because Yirmiyahu says, "I will inscribe my word, my Torah, in their hearts and in their minds." And he says, "I'll make a new covenant, not like the covenant I made with their fathers." So it is a new covenant. It is a chadash. There's a sense of freshness. It's not a renewal. It's a renewal in the sense that now the Torah is now no longer just limited to the lithos, to the Petra, to the stone. It's now sealed in your heart. You have a new heart. The new heart of flesh replaces the heart of stone. So here we see the references, the play of words with the idea of the rock, the lithos, which is a small rock. So I thought that was really cool. Therefore, he called Abraham a rock, as it is said in Isaiah 51:1. Look to the rock from which you were hewn. He's talking about Abraham. So Abraham was the first Kefa, was the first. Okay? And Mashiach said, before Abraham came, before Abraham was, I am. So again, Petros is a rock or a stone, a piece of rock, larger than the lithos, which can be a stumbling stone because it's small, easy to trip over. Because it's a big rock, you walk around it, right? But okay, but the Petra is a rock, cliff, or ledge, large stone. It's a projecting rock, a crag, a massive rock, okay? And ecclesia is the gathering or called out citizens, the kahal. So the rock of revelation, you are the rock of revelation, okay? No, you are not the rock of revelation. He did not say that to Kefa. He says, you are a rock. But upon this rock, what came forth from you is a revelation. Just like the Father giving birth, if you want to use that term, he speaks and comes forth the word through the ruach, the breath. So the word that we speak need to be seasoned with purity and kadoshness, just like, again, the 4 purity laws that were given to the early believers who were not of Yehudim, and they would learn eventually because the Goyim were in the synagogue as well. They were there. The Gentiles at the gate is what they're referred to as. In fact, when you read the book of Acts, you always see that there's Goyim involved as well, and they're eager. They want to be accepted and by the community. And so these 4 purity laws are perfectly appropriate for them to fit into this new community. The rock of revelation was when Kefa says, "You are the Mashiach ben El-Hai, the son of the living Elohim." Okay, so the ecclesia never refers to an institution or to a building or to Simon Peter. Okay. In consequence of his confession, Yeshua makes Kefa both Shamish, steward, servant, from Romans 16:1 and 1 Timothy 3:8-13. Okay? With the keys and the Dayan, you were to judge as the one who can prohibit and permit, establish, to permit and to establish. So let me go into that. Okay. Thank you, Father. And we go to Metayahu 18, verse 18-20. Assuredly, amen, amen, I say to you, whatever you bind on the earth will be bound in heaven. And the word there for bind and bound is deo. And that's not talking about the banana boat song. Deo. Okay, deo is to fasten, to forbid, to prohibit. And whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Okay. Again, surely, which is to permit, which is to allow. Again, surely I say to you, if 2 agree on earth concerning anything that they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in the Shemayim. Okay. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, I am there in the midst of them. And we take that out of context. The idea of 2 of us together, Yah's in our midst, and he's, we're having a good old time at the ball game or at the opera or whatever. We just, there he is. He's in the midst of us. It's talking about 2 or 3 witnesses that we make establish a fact. When we are with Mashiach, when we are together in the Word, that cements the deal, and that's based on Torah in Deuteronomy Devarim 19:15. 1 witness shall not rise against a man concerning any iniquity or any sin. Okay? Any sin that he commits. By the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, the matter shall be established. Okay, so that's what has to do with it. That 2 or 3, just like in Torah, in Deuteronomy, I call heaven and earth against you as witnesses. The 2 witnesses. In Revelation, it talks about 2 witnesses. Everyone wants to figure out which of the 2 witnesses was it. Was it this one? Was it that one? Or is it just being used in a sense of 2 witnesses, that this is a valid testimony, this is what's going down? And let me just continue here. So the scene of Kefa's confession in the region of Caesarea Philippi, the north of the Sea of Galilee, okay, of the Gentiles it was referred to, okay. And let's see, I think I already mentioned that. The area was originally called Paneas, which is the ancient name, survives as Manas. But Paneas is in honor of the Greek deity known as Pan, who's a goat demon, half goat, half man. And that's where we get the the symbolism of the devil, right? With the horns, the tail, and the hooves. We get the idea of this. Well, in English literature, it would be a faun, Faun, which C.S. Lewis uses as an innocent character, the faun. But he uses a lot of characters from Greek mythology in that Chronicles of Narnia. But again, we get the image of the devil with the horns and the hooves from Pan. We're not talking about Peter Pan. We're talking about a true deity that was worshipped, the goats, and the offerings they would make, and they would throw them into the doorway of the underworld, which was this flowing river, flowing waters that went deep into the darkness, deep into the belly of the earth, essentially, the underworld, the underground. Okay. This is also where the gates of hell was located, at the base of Hermon, as I mentioned. And this pagan environment, Mashiach asks him, "Who do you say that I am?" Right? And then he makes mention of Hades, Hades, Hades. Hades was also used for Pluto, the deity of the lower regions, or the name Orcus, the netherworld ruler of the lower regions. Okay? The netherworld, the realm of the dead, infernal regions below the earth, the grave, death, the receptacle of disembodied spirits. We see that referred to in Luke 16:23, Revelation 20:13 and 14. So when it talks about hell, it's a lot of words that are used for hell. Gehenna is the other one. I mean, the Gehenna is a garbage dump that still burns. It's a burning. They throw criminals in there. They throw dead things in there, and it's always burning. It's always burning. When I went the one time to Israel, I went through that Gehenna. It was really weird. There's still smoking, still hot as a furnace. You see little lizards skidding around. But it's an unclean place. They won't really build on it because it is an unclean region. So praise Yah. I hope you appreciate this little background, just as a taste. Okay. Anyone out there, Mama?
I can't look.
Oh, you know what? Nobody's coming aboard tonight, so I'm going to just shut that down. Annalise, shalom. Shalom. Thank you, brother, for all you do. We appreciate it. Well, toda rabah, toda. I thank you so much. It's good to know. And I'm sorry I didn't greet you earlier because I'm on another screen, and Regina usually has the other screen, but she was with the phone, which nobody called on tonight. So anywho, so here we go, and we're going to get into the text. But I think, like I said, I think it's a good idea to get a little background in before we are thrown into the writing itself, and we can at least get through the first couple of verses here, I think. He says, Peter, Petros, or Kefa, a shaliach of Yeshua the Mashiach, one who was divinely sent. I mean, he literally was. Mashiach, you are sent. He commissioned him by hand. So that was an amazing acknowledgement that he had the credentials. We see that in the book of Acts, in those early chapters, if something was going on, they asked for Kefa and Yochanan to come around and verify. Again, the two witnesses. So two witnesses are important to establish a fact. If you have somebody doing something wrong in your community of faith, first, if you know them, you can tell them aside, and they refuse to hear from you, you take somebody with you, and then you readdress the situation. And if you're still not satisfied, you bring it before the community. And if they still refuse to be admonished and corrected, there's the door. Don't let it hit you where the doggy should have bit you. Okay, so Kefa and Ashaliach of Yahusha, the Mashiach, to the pilgrims of the dispersion in Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. So again, the pilgrims. So the apostles. So the idea of an apostle, as I said, apostolos. The shaliach is one sent. Apostolos is a delegate, a messenger. One sent forth with orders, an ambassador of the gospel, officially a commissioner of Mashiach. Okay, a shaliach, one who was sent. Sent to Elohim's people, chosen people, elect, Israel living as aliens in the diaspora. Kefa is an emissary to the circumcised, as it says in Galatians 2:7 and 8. So he is generally anchored near, around about Jerusalem and the Levant, right, in Jerusalem area. Shaul was given the privilege of bringing it out farther and farther. They were dispersed from the land of Israel. Okay? So if we compare this to Yaakov's greetings, otherwise known as James, as I said, Yaakov, to the 12 tribes in the diaspora, the ingathering of the exiles. Okay? Ingathering the exiles. The kibbutz hagoliot, from the diaspora to Eretz Yisrael, the 11th blessing of the Amidah. Okay? Sound the great shofar for our freedom. Raise a banner or a miracle. The banner is a miracle. The banner is the covenant sign. The oath is an indication of unity and progress to be based upon, right? Gather our exiles and gather us together from the four corners of the earth. And blessed be you, Adonai, Yahuwah, who gathers the dispersed of his people. Okay, so the idea of a pilgrim is to be strangers in a strange land. They're not native. They're pilgrims of the diaspora, the dispersion, the Yehudim. So they are cast out into Pontus, because, again, Kefa is writing this maybe as late as 60 AD, like I mentioned. And things were getting hot and heavy with Rome at this point. It didn't reach the stage of the greatest of all tribulations, but it was certainly building up towards that. So these cities, Pontus, Galatia, etc., is in present-day Turkey, Asia Minor. Okay. These people were present on the day of Shavuot. Okay, so again, Kefa spoke to these people from Acts chapter 2, right? Remember that the Yehudim from all over the world had come to Shavuot because Shavuot was one of the pilgrim feasts, otherwise known as the Regalim. And Regal means feet. So they were foot feasts, they were pilgrimage. They come from far away, wherever they've settled in Pontus or Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, Bithynia. That's where they settled, okay? They kick us out here. we'll settle here. That's fine. But we will make our pilgrimage 3 times a year for the feast of unleavened bread, which is Pesach, unleavened bread, for Shavuot, Pentecost, and for Sukkot at the end of the season. Okay? They're late in the 7th month. But you notice that they're all on the 15th day. 15th day of the first month was the first day of Hag HaMatzot, the day of leaving Egypt. Okay? And then in the 3rd month, the 15th day, is Shavuot. And in the 7th month, the 15th day, is the first day of Sukkot, Feast of the Tabernacles, which we believe that's most likely when Mashiach was born, around that time. And this event on the Transfiguration might well have been during Sukkot, because remember, Shimon Kefa offers, it's good for us to be here, as we see Mashiach transfigured with Moshe and Eliyahu, 2 witnesses. The glory, they said there would be some who would not die before they see the glory. Okay? And so they saw this amazing glimpse as Mashiach regains the footing of Mount Hermon and reclaims that place and makes it kadosh once again. So presently they're strangers in the world. They are strangers, and just like when Shaul writes to the strangers, he's not necessarily just talking about Gentiles. He's talking about those who have been scattered to the 4 corners of the earth. Not just the Yehudim from Judah, but also from the 10 tribes that were scattered to the 4 corners of the earth, which will be coming back during this time of regathering, of ingathering. So there's a lot going on here. So they're pilgrims. They're pilgrims. 1 Chronicles 29:15. For we are aliens and pilgrims before you, as our fathers. Our days on earth are as a shadow and without hope. So being lost is not a good place to be. So thankfully, Chabesorah comes along, and wherever we are part of the community. We are part of the Kahal Elohim. We are part of the temple of the Most High, the Beit HaMikdash. So this great invitation that we see with Kefa, especially in the studies writing to the Yehudim, and those who, grafted on as well, I would imagine at this point, because the Yehudim have settled in these various regions. And of course, there have been synagogues in these locations, as we saw in Acts 15. That wherever these Goyim live, that they would be able to attend a synagogue and hear Moshe preached, as it's pointed out that from all these different regions, there is a place, a synagogue, where Moshe is being taught. So with these 4 purity rituals under their belt, they can grow, and from week to week they will learn, and they will be able to adapt to the change of the Elom Hazeh to the Elom Haba. Okay? So again, let's just see, I have one more verse here. Psalm 39:12. Hear my prayer, O Yahuwah, and give ear to my cry. Do not be silent at my tears, for I am a stranger with you, a sojourner. All my fathers were. And Hebrews 13:14. For here we have no continuing city, but we seek the one to come. That's why I had the opportunity to go to Israel once in 1988, and that was the one opportunity that I had, and I took it. I had a great time and all, but that's not where I'm going to go in the world to come. There's the Yerushalayim. There's this from above. Remember, Avraham was looking for a place whose architect and builder was Yah himself, in the Shemayim. That's why the new Yerushalayim is so important, that it bridges the gap, that it shows us that which is eternal. Because remember, Moshe was given the instruction in building the tabernacle, the Mishkan, that he built it exactly according to the directions, according to the blueprint that I will give you, exact. And then he builds it, and then he inspects it, making sure. Because just like with the dam and the Abihu, right? Abihu, they just kind of improvised. They just kind of, well, let's do it this way. They did not heed this mindset. If Yah says do this, you do that. And you do it as you're told. There's no variation. You do not add, you do not subtract, and you do not improvise. Like I said, Yah as an orchestra, we all have our instruments that we are especially good on, and we have the works of great composers on these music stands, and we just play along. And if everyone does that, the blending of all these sounds is amazing. If you ever have the chance to hear, classical music live, it sounds good on the record or whatever, but if you hear it live, you almost can feel the wood of the violins and the brass of the trumpets, and it's just an amazing, amazing feeling. So, but another form of music that we have here in this U.S. is jazz. It's all improvisational, and it's great. All these solo artists get to play together, and then they get a chance to shine on their own, and that's all great. But Yah's not a jazz musician. He is a classical music conductor, and he has his baton, Torah. And in fact, when you look at the music sheets, there's a rest in which you don't play the next part. So you rest. It's a Shabbat. Then we stop. That's why all of a sudden the focus is on the violins and maybe a couple of oboes here. But for you, being the trumpeter, playing the French horn maybe, you just wait. You stop. You wait. And then you're called upon that you proceed. And you add your perfect ingredients to the perfect meal of the word. So, but we feel like wayfarers in this life, don't we? Which is why we need to feel it part of a family. And I appreciate that many of you people have come and feel like we're kind of a surrogate family, and it's good. I feel proud and humbled at the same time. And we can come together, we get to know each other, and hopefully you come to trust me, because as I say, I don't like to use the word mantra, but our mantra here is we prove all things, we test all things. If it's tov, you got it. It's good. Got to do it. If it's lo tov or ra, no, you disagree. So again, before I present anything to you, I go through many, many stages of making sure that everything fits. And if there's any speculation, I will tell you speculation. This is my guess. This is not so much my guess, but this is what I believe based upon the evidence. There might be an alternate situation. I will present that also. Okay? So again, the dispersion, the dispersed, the diaspora. He's addressing these pilgrims. So the idea of this letter has got to be good. Silas is there, sharpening his Greek to this community as well as the Hebrew. And it's got to reach all these people, because there are those in Pontus and Galatia and Cappadocia who might not speak Hebrew as their first language anymore. They might be speaking Greek primarily, and Hebrew is their religious language, sort of like it is today in Jewish communities. A lot of people do not speak Hebrew at home. They speak Yiddish or English or whatever, but in the synagogue, they speak the Hebrew. And it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. So to the pilgrims, or is to elect, according to what? According to the foreknowledge of Elohim, Abba, the Father, and sanctification of the Ruach, for obedience and sprinkling of the blood, the dam of Yeshua the Mashiach. Grace to you and peace be multiplied. Multiplied. Amen. So that's his greeting to the elect ones, the elect pilgrims who are out there. And we see Kefa is comforting in many of these teachings that he gives. It's comforting. And we see the teaching of the living stones of the true Beit HaMikdash. So don't feel bad. You cut away from the Jerusalem lifestyle. You just be kadosh wherever you are. We have the matching standard that Yah offers us. The matching standard. Again, if I had both hands going, I would show you the matching standard. It's the same. It's one. It's a chad. We might be speaking different languages. We might be speaking from different cultures. But ultimately, there's one standard. There's one pattern. And we need to acknowledge it, prove it, test it. It's good. We walk by faith, not by sight. We're not blown away and stunned by that which we see. You know, you can appreciate these big cathedrals and wow, that's beautiful. Look at the stained glass. Look at that. That's Tov. I'm sure that those who built it dedicated to the glory of Yah. That's good. That's good. But again, we should not be blown away by the beauty of things. Even as Messiah responded to the Talmudim, he said, "Oh, Adon, look at all the beautiful buildings." And all that. He says, "Don't get too wrapped up in this because they're all coming down. They're all coming down, one stone upon another. They'll eventually be pulverized. There'll be nothing left. So watch it while you can. But we are not wedded to anything that is physically discernible. We walk by faith, not by sight. And we need to walk by the Ruach, not by the flesh. So that which is of the flesh is temporary. That which is of the Ruach is eternal, is everlasting. To wait to see something coming down from heaven, but you're not going to see things coming down from heaven because they are eternal. They're not going to be able to, oh, there he is. And what is he wearing? He's wearing a beautiful three-piece suit, or he's wearing this wonderful toga. We should not be able to see that because it's coming from eternity. It's coming from the Shemayim. Doesn't mean it's invisible. No. We can see because we are liberated. We are now of Ruach. Because flesh and blood, that's so, to borrow a colloquialism, that's so like totally yesterday. The world that we're living in now, the life that we're living in now is of the Ruach. Or it should be. We are not appointed to wrath. We are to suffer persecution. Yeah. There were troubles in this world. Not as horrible as the first century before 70 AD. But there will be persecution. There's already persecution. And today is Ash Wednesday. So we see a lot of those who are of the papistry with their ashes marked on the forehead. And that's fine. I just pray that those who are among the Vatican people would realize that they don't need all these different extravagant things in order to serve Yah, because some of these things are distracting. Anyway, so here we go. We got a little glimpse of Kefa. We got a little taste of what Silas was all about and how important he is to the story. It's like liking a really good movie, but you don't know who the director is. The director, oh yeah, I've heard that name. And he also made this movie and that movie. Oh yeah, I love those movies. That same director was involved in all of that. And you kind of say, oh yeah, it's great movies. But the director was very important. And Silas was very important in directing this great epistle. And I'm humbled to do this, but First Peter is an amazing, amazing book. It was one of my early favorites in scriptures, and I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to be able to do a teaching this. And I just pray that you're with us on this new venture, this new chapter in our midweek MIDrash. And again, I thank you so much for joining us tonight. And if you missed this past Sabbath teaching, it's very important because it's all about prophecy. It's all about the faithfulness to convey the word, and so on and so forth. I go through all the prophets, and we go through a lot of depth. And I see that this past Sabbath we had a little bit of a lull. Didn't have as many people there with us. So if you haven't seen it, or if you know anyone who might be interested, please let them know. And we want to build up. We want to be able to reach as many as possible. And the subscribers certainly help. If you're not subscribed, please do so. And if it's worthwhile, give us one of these as well. That would be appreciated. And it's just a good thing. It's just good. And it's good that many of you consider us, your family, and that we're trustworthy. And that means a lot to me, man. It really does. That we will be trustworthy. And let me just check something. Okay, there I am. Don't look too bad. Don't look too good either. I'll try to be more centered for my school picture next time. But praise God. So again, I thank you so much for joining us. And Valerie, it was good to hear that you had a lead on a new place to set down your roots a little bit. And Annalie, we're praying for your full recovery with your surgery on your back and such. So we love you guys, and whether you feel like we're part of your family, until I hear otherwise, I feel like you're part of our family. No conditions, it's an open door policy, but I thank you for being with us, and we will pray for you also. So Abba, I thank you for again the opportunity to open up the word and to teach what little I know, but you've made me experience many things in prayer and prophecy and study, Abba. And I thank you that I'm being used, and I thank you for the opportunity. I pray for Valerie, that you continue to guide her steps, Father. Keep her safe, keep her focused. May she continue to do well. Thank you. And Annalie, again, I pray for her. I pray for her daughter also. But I pray for her healing, and I pray, and I'm so grateful that she gives all capitals so that I can see without straining too much. But I thank you so much for Annalie. And all those who would be joining us during the course of the week, this Wednesday evening, which is Ash Wednesday, ironically. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. But we don't need Lent to remind us that we need to be set apart for you, Father. If we give up chocolate for the next 40 days, that does not make us more kadosh. If I give up drinking for the next 40 days, that doesn't make me kadosh. I give you my whole self, Father. And let us all have that mindset of being set apart for Yah and for each other. We all benefit from that. So again, Abba, we just thank you for your faithful ones and those who would join and watch us later or whenever they can. We just thank you, Father, for all your goodness and your kindness to be with us and guide us and unite us. That there truly would be, and we would all maintain that one kadosh, set apart standard, Abba. Truly be echad. And again, we give you thanks for this evening, for all things. Hashem Yeshua, amen and amen.
Amen.
So praise Yah. So we love you, ladies. We love you, dudes, who are going to watch us whenever you get the chance. And again, we give you thanks. We give thanks to Yah. And everything give thanks, for this is the will of Yah concerning you. So we will say Laila Tov, Ulehi Traot. We say good night, and then we will see you a little further down the road. So praise Yah. And keep First Peter in mind, do a little reading beforehand so we can come together. If you have any questions or any comments, if I missed something, please let me know. But for now, shalom, shalom. Be well.